Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Supply Chain Podcast. My name is Tom Raftery, and with me on the show today, I have my special guest, Donna. Donna, welcome to the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Tom. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. So, Donna Palumbo-Miele, I am a career supply chain professional, and I worked in big corporations for a number of years. And now I consult in supply chain, primarily in the sourcing and procurement space, working with supplier relationship management, sustainability, risk mitigation. And what I do is I provide guidance to C-level as well as advisory services to different organizations. So delighted to be here. I'm also the vice chair of the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals and have always been in the supply chain, and delighted to be here and talk with you today.
Okay, great. And just, to clarify, what kind of services are Concordia providing?
Yeah, so we provide consulting advisory services and management consulting primarily in the supply chain space, in supply chain, primarily in the sourcing and procurement space, cross sector, across industry.
Great. Now, Donna, could you start maybe by telling us a little bit about your career journey? How did you get into supply chain in the first place? I mean, there are lots of supply chain courses in third level institutions today, but when I started out, that wasn't a thing. And I think a lot of people who are in supply chain come into it from very different and interesting paths. So did you study supply chain in university, or how did you get in there?
I did. So actually, my parents had a family business. So I grew up in a household of entrepreneurs. So I started learning the culture of business at a young age. And when I went on to college, I went to Penn State and I studied business logistics and I minored in MIS. So educated in it, trained in it over the years, and have worked for fantastic companies as well, and just a number of different unique experiences that I have had the privilege to be part of.
Great. Fantastic. And I mean, you've been working in supply chain now for a while, and you've worked with companies like Walt Disney, Johnson & Johnson, Bloomberg. How have you seen the field evolve over time?
Sure. So the need for talent and the type of talent has definitely changed over the years. Also, technology. Technology, we know, is advancing at a very rapid pace, just incredibly fast. And what I've seen evolve are what the talent needs to know or be able to do to really progress in an industry, in a profession that's so important to the work we do, our global economy, advancing consumer needs, delivering on consumer needs. So talent has always been an area that's been very near and dear to me in supply chain, and really helping those in the profession advance, learn new skill sets, grow, and as leaders, that's part of our responsibility as well.
Okay. And I mean, when you talk about the changes in supply chain, what are the kind of top factors driving those changes? I mean, you mentioned technology, but there's also, I got to think, things like globalization and sustainability and lots of other factors as well. What do you think is the kind of top causes of change?
So part of it is consumer expectations, what consumers expect of companies, how companies are delivering on their mission and vision, the values of companies. Consumers at times will utilize services or purchase from companies that they believe in their values or believe in the mission and vision of the company as well. Sustainability has gotten more important to a number of companies. It's part of the agenda for companies and senior leaders as they look at their strategies for the year and years to come, and also how the talent is part of that as well.
Yep, no doubt. And I mean, you taught at Virginia Tech as well, or maybe you're still teaching there, I'm not sure. How do you see the education of supply chain professionals changing to keep up with industry developments?
Sure. So So I adjunct teach for Virginia Tech. Absolutely love it. I've been an adjunct professor for actually more than 10 years. It's a passion of mine. I love spending time
Nice.
with the students and hearing their stories. So education and the delivery of education has changed from my undergraduate and graduate days. And as professors, as leaders, it's our responsibility to really stay on top of, have a pulse on what's changing in the supply chain, what's changing in the profession, and bring those learnings, could be via case studies, speakers, etc., to the students so they can hear and learn about how the supply chain has evolved and it's going to continue to evolve. Change happens and it's inevitable, but staying close to that and understanding what are our roles as supply chain professionals, those students who young professionals who then become part of the profession, or those younger in their career, or those in academic or in college and university going on to be supply chain professionals, but taking those steps to understand what is changing, how do we learn about those changes, and what do we do as professionals? I always say I'm committed to lifelong learning, and I truly am. There's so much to learn. There's so much information out there. We learn from others. We learn from reading. There's just so many opportunities to increase our knowledge.
For example, listening to podcasts.
Really.
In your opinion, what are the key competencies and skills that future supply chain leaders need to succeed, and how can existing professionals cultivate these competencies?
Sure. So it's really changed over the years. The questions we're asking for those going into new jobs when they're interviewing, they're asking questions that are different than what we were probably asking years ago as we're into the workforce. So, but being more strategic, understanding technology, you don't necessarily need to know all the intricacies, but solutions are out there to support opportunities. There's so much enabling technology for us to do our jobs that understanding what those solutions are, you can bring them to the table. Also understanding that the supply chain is integrated and really working across functions, that collaboration. And some of it are, and I want to say they're basic skills, but they're very important. But having the soft skills, very important, really in any profession that you have, being able to communicate, being able to partner, being a collaborator. The supply chain is integrated, and working across those different functions, it's very likely that talent will have projects that are cross-functional, working on engagements from different functions within the supply chain or different functions even within the organization, and being able to have that team spirit mindset and be able to be a team player. Also, working through, there's always different challenges within teams, but how can you be a visionary? How can you be creative, partnering with different groups, being inclusive to different ideas and thoughts? We all don't know it all. And again, there's so much to learn from others as well. But some of those, with the supply chain and the advances taking place, there's opportunities. There's just so much opportunities to maximize the potential of our talent that's out there and within our organizations. But understanding greater use of digital technology. If you're working with suppliers, again, having that ability to have those soft skills and communicate through supplier relationship management opportunities, collaboration, innovate together, developing contingency plans as well through the work that you're doing within the supply chain.
Excellent. And how can businesses ensure they're developing the right supply chain talent? I mean, what role can mentorship and professional development programs play in that kind of process?
Yeah, so great question. So many of us, I've been a mentee, I've been a mentor, and I continue to mentor. And many of us probably have been in one or both of those roles, or different ways to call them. But but being able to provide support, guidance to those that are maybe new in their position, new to the company, new to the department, new to the team, and regardless of the level, it doesn't necessarily mean you're just entering into the workforce, but as leaders, providing that mentorship, and there's benefits for both. I mean, it's very rewarding to be a mentor, but the benefits for the mentee can be significant. You're bringing in industry expertise that a mentee may not have, maybe engaging with other entrepreneurs and hearing about that entrepreneurial spirit and the work that they're doing, but being motivating to the person that you're mentoring, providing feedback that's constructive, being a role model, and just having those really relevant conversations that really will help that person advance and whatever they may be looking to advance. And also, again, committed to lifelong learning. What are those opportunities for continuing education? There's so many programs out there through universities, certificate programs that professionals could take advantage of.
Sure. And there's also the likes of the reverse mentorship relationships that can happen as well, right?
Yes, I mean, you learn from those that you're mentoring. Challenges change. What may have been challenging 10 years ago, professionals, that might not be the case now. The environment has changed. So many things have changed just over the years. But yes, and it's also it's helpful to for mentors. Again, keeping a pulse on what does talent need to unleash that potential for their opportunities within their company, or maybe they want to be an entrepreneur, maybe they want to innovate or develop a new product. And there's so many opportunities for mentors to get involved with mentees through different programs or even through your network. It's not uncommon that I'll hear from those in my network that, hey, Donna, would you spend time speaking with this person with your supply chain background and the organizations that you're involved in or have been involved in, or the academic work that you're doing? And and it's always joyful to have those conversations with these mentees.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. You've shifted from working for large corporations to starting your own supply chain consulting firm. Can you share, what the transition was like and any lessons you've learned from running your own business?
Sure. So I had the privilege to work for fantastic companies, those that you mentioned, and had an amazing career in corporate for a number of years. And I worked on some of the most very unique and iconic projects, and learned so much. And I learned from others. And the best part was those that I worked with and engaged with, again, on those cross-functional teams and on those different projects. And when I decided to begin consulting, it was something I had thought about for a while. And it's interesting because I started my career in consulting right out of college, so it's come full circle. But it's amazing the power of the network. And once I had shared with those in my network that, hey, I'm consulting and it's in this space, etc. It was such a pleasure and just so nice to hear from so many people of wonderful, how can I help? Or, hey, I know of this opportunity, an organization looking for some assistance in different areas within the supply chain. So I still have the opportunity to work with great companies, work on some very unique and fun projects. Still have the engagement. You still have the collaboration, cross-functional. A lot more is remote these days, since our world has changed, but it works, and it's been fantastic. There's this network of consultants out there as well that are always willing to dialogue and have discussions and collaborate and engage. Also, doing this, I've been able to explore opportunities or work on initiatives that I haven't worked on or engaged with in the past. So I've had some of the most fascinating conversations with practitioners, academics, students, innovators, investors, founders. And not that I couldn't have done that in corporate, but when you're an entrepreneur, some of the dialogue is different, but some of it's not. When I worked for big corporate, for example, when I was in the sourcing and procurement space, I spent a lot of time talking with suppliers, and I spend a lot of time talking with my clients now and other companies. So that hasn't changed. It's different, but it's been very, very rewarding. I'm very blessed with the companies and clients that I have been working with and continue to work with, and it's been quite enjoyable.
And there's got to be a certain kind of freedom as well that comes from being your own boss, right?
Yes. So, yes, I can make my own hours, of course. I can determine how many days I want to take off for vacation for the year. So yes, there's different types of benefits. So in there, you get great benefits, a number of different types of benefits working for corporate. But there's also different benefits when you're an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, if you're anything like me, you're probably taking less vacation days now than when you were working for corporate.
It's interesting. It's I love to travel, so that's one thing that hasn't traveled. And over the years in corporate, I traveled quite a bit to different countries as well. And I still have the opportunity to travel for work and for pleasure. So it's nice, and it's nice to get out there. And I do meet with clients as well in person too. So, but so much is virtual now.
Sure. And speaking of travel, we met at the CSCMP event in Barcelona a few weeks back. You, as you mentioned at the start, are a board vice chairman of the CSCMP. Can you share some of the insights into how the organization is helping shape the future of supply chain management?
Sure. So yes, a pleasure to meet you when we were at the Europe conference just a few weeks ago. Fantastic conference, fantastic speakers, and just so many amazing topics. So as vice chair, so I've been part of CSCMP for years, and I was actually first introduced to them when I was in undergrad. One of my professors introduced us to the students to the organization. And then the past 10 years, I've been very active in the support and volunteering with CSCMP. I was a board member of them when I lived in Florida, and then now in the Northeast, part of this roundtable here in the Northeast as well. So being part of CSCMP, I have the honor and privilege to be the vice chair. And there's so many opportunities and initiatives going on within CSCMP. We have an incredible staff. Mark Baxa is the CEO and president of CSCMP. And some of the benefits of being a member of CSCMP is the education that you have the opportunity to take advantage of as a member, countless opportunities, the engagement and networking. So CSCMP has a large member base. There's a number of different networking opportunities. It could be in your local city. We have roundtables, the EDGE conference that we have each fall. This year will be in Orlando. And there's a young professional committee or young professional group for those that would like to take advantage of the opportunities to engage with other young professionals. And you're not only just engaging with young professionals, but also those that are further along in their career. But there's so many opportunities, again, to learn, to network, engage through different channels. I mean, there's a number of webinars that they do, that they provide. There's podcasts, there's the conference, but it's something I have found very rewarding. I'm pleased to be a part of them. Again, it's at least 10 years I've been very, very active with them. I have my fellow board members that I get to spend quite a bit of time with, and meet people like you through the process too, and through the different opportunities. But there's just so much that to take advantage of, and it's just like a lot of things. What you put into it is what you get out of it, and it could be you could be a speaker. They're oftentimes looking for speakers for EDGE or different webinars. So opportunities are just countless.
And I should say as well that I've had several episodes of the podcast come out as a result of my being at the event in Barcelona. I had the episode that came out yesterday was with Rob Haddock from Coca-Cola, ex-Coca-Cola. Now he's retired.
I was saying you actually recorded one of your podcasts live recorded one of your podcasts from
That's right.
Barcelona with Kevin Smith and Mark Baxa. So fantastic.
That's right. It was a very good episode as well. Bit of background noise, which I did my best to get rid of, but there's only so much you can do. But it was a great episode as well. If people haven't listened to it, I would definitely encourage you to go back and listen to that one. Can you talk a little bit, Donna, about how the demand for skills in supply chain is changing? Are there any emerging skills that are becoming increasingly important?
Yeah. So, as mentioned, the our supply chain has changed, the profession has changed, skill sets will change. There's a need to be more strategic. You have to understand some of the tech solutions out there. Again, you don't need to know all the intricacies, but there's enabling technology to support companies' operations, their businesses, understanding the value chain, but also and I mentioned earlier, technology, it's advancing at such a rapid pace, but how do you leverage that for the work you're doing? There's a lot of talk, discussion around AI and machine learning, and there's the element of the human touch as part of that as well. So there's also understanding risk management. There's varying levels of risk in different companies and different operations, et cetera. But what does risk management mean to your company, to your department, to your team? What does contingency planning mean that to a team, to a department, to a company? And then evolving those as well. So as the supply chain changes, strategies change, plans change, et cetera. Also, one of the things I always encourage professionals, and especially those in the earlier in their career, but build your network, because these are people you're going to know through the years. Over the years, you may work with them, engage with them, collaborate, innovate. So many great solutions come out of different type of working sessions, etc. But it's only knowing your function, in my opinion, isn't enough. Understanding the other functions within the supply chain, and I mentioned this a couple of times, the integrated supply chain, the value chain, but how to work cross-functionally across the work that you're doing, your projects, your engagements. I mentioned building the network, and the network is so huge out there, and you can build that network, as I mentioned, with CSCMP and different, the roundtables and different organizations. But keeping working to really understand how a person can be nimble, how you can adapt. I mean, like change happens. How do we adapt with change? How do we grow as individuals? It's our profession is, to me, is very fascinating. The work that we do, and it's very important that the work that we do as professionals in supply chain. But really, staying, having a pulse on what are the needs of your team, your organization, your department, and how do you bring those opportunities to continue advancing in the space?
Cool. And we've talked now several times about change and continuous learning and how people need to keep upskilling. How can companies foster that culture that encourages continuous learning and innovation within their supply chain teams?
Sure. So, as leaders, it's our responsibility to identify opportunities for those that we work with. Maybe it's a stretch assignment, maybe it's going to a conference, maybe it's continuing on in advanced education. It could be a degree, it could be a certificate. There's so many options to learn now through there's webinars, podcasts, etc. There's but bringing those opportunities, but also as an individual, it's our responsibility as well to manage our careers and manage our learnings, and if we want to learn something new, voice that to who you work with or who you report to, who your leader is, because those opportunities could be right there, and you just don't know. But training and education, there's so many opportunities out there to be a part of, and oftentimes those that have become experts in different space, they then give back where they're speaking in the classroom, they're speaking at the conferences, and it's you're paying it forward in a number of ways.
Sure. Yeah. No, I give lectures as well in a local business college, and I got to say, it's always fantastic to be able to stand up in front of a class and impart knowledge. It's a great feeling.
It is.
So, for someone like yourself who's at the forefront of supply chain management, Where do you see the field going in the next 5 to 10 years? What kind of trends or developments should we be keeping an eye on?
We'll continue to see change, and we've seen change. I think change is happening a lot quicker and faster than it did in the past. A big part of that is because of advancement in technology and different capabilities of different tools and resources. But I see technology really continue to advance and be an enabler for the work that we do. Sustainability, it could be, and then sustainability, and it's a number. If you look at ESG, if you think about ESG, there's a number of different ways that the profession has changed or the work that's being done in ESG. Companies will be looking at that more. It's on more agendas or more part of more strategies as well. The need for talent, I don't feel that will go away. I mean, humans are needed to do work and functions. So going back to the learnings, as individuals, learning about technology, how do we advance the profession? It could be how we're engaging with our suppliers and our partners, how it could be working with innovators or creative groups, product developers. Modes of transportation, the advancement in transportation has changed as well. And we'll continue to see that continuous change in a number of different areas.
Okay, superb. We're coming to the end of the podcast now, Donna. Is there any question I have not asked that you wish I had, or any aspect of this we haven't touched on that you think it's important for people to be aware of?
So I always get asked, what is the one thing I would, when someone reaches out to me and you might be a mentee, but I always say, be curious, ask questions. So that I always encourage, be curious.
I always say every day is a school day.
Yeah.
So, cool, great. Donna, if people would like to know more about yourself or any of the things we discussed in the podcast today, where would you have me direct them?
I'm happy to be contacted via LinkedIn, Donna Palumbo-Miele, it's hyphenated, as well as my website, www.concordiasupplychain.com.
Fantastic. Donna, it's been great. Thanks a million for coming on the podcast today.
Tom, thank you. Delight to speak with you and appreciate the conversation.